So friends, a federal judge in California just delivered Donald Trump one of the biggest legal losses of his presidency thus far. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, a federal judge just ordered the control of the California National Guard to be taken away from Donald Trump and returned to California Governor Gavin Newsom. Why? Well, because in seizing control of the California National Guard, Donald Trump acted both unlawfully, in violation of a federal statute, and unconstitutionally, in violation of the 10th Amendment to the Constitution. Now, the case has been appealed, so the ruling is stayed or paused until Tuesday. But given the power of the reasoning and the rationale of the federal court judge who entered that ruling, Judge Breyer, Donald Trump should absolutely lose on appeal. Let's start with the new reporting. This from Democracy Docket. Headline: Federal judge blocks Trump's seizure of California National Guard. And that article begins, a federal judge issued a sweeping order blocking President Donald Trump's unprecedented seizure of California's National Guard, calling the move illegal and a dangerous precedent. U.S. District Judge Charles Breyer, appointed by President Bill Clinton, ruled Thursday that Trump violated federal law and the U.S. Constitution when he seized control of the California National Guard to respond to largely peaceful protests in Los Angeles without the governor's consent. The order, which temporarily blocks the deployment of Guard troops in Los Angeles and directs that control be returned to California Governor Gavin Newsom, marks a stunning rebuke of the Trump administration's attempt to use military power in domestic law enforcement without state approval. Judge Breyer found that Trump failed to follow the required process under Title 10 U.S. Code Section 12406, which mandates that activation orders be issued through the governors. Instead, Breyer wrote, Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth circumvented the governor and thus the procedure mandated by statute from the outset. And now, friends, let's turn to just a little bit of the opening salvo in Judge Breyer's opinion in the case of Gavin Newsom et al. And others, plaintiffs, versus Donald J. Trump et al., defendants. At this early stage of the proceedings, the court must determine whether the president followed the congressionally mandated procedure for his actions. He did not. His actions were illegal, both exceeding the scope of his statutory authority and violating the 10th Amendment to the United States Constitution. He must therefore return control of the California National Guard to the governor of the state of California forthwith. Okay, friends, a quick translation from legalese to English. The word forthwith essentially means right effing now. All right, let's shift gears a little. I want to talk about something that is buried in the middle of Judge Breyer's 36-page ruling and order, and it has to do with Latin. Now, you may see from time to time lawyers like to spout out words and phrases in Latin, often for no good reason. I guess because lawyers like to make things seem more complicated than they need to be. But you've probably been hearing some Latin phrases in the news quite a bit lately, like habeas corpus. The translation of that Latin term is you have the body. And in essence, a detained person can ask a court to issue a writ of habeas corpus, which is the judge directing the government to bring the body of the person you are detaining before me. Bring the person to court so I can determine if the government is unlawfully or unconstitutionally detaining that person. There's a legal term that we often use in court, res judicata. It means, okay, the issue has already been litigated, adjudicated, and resolved, so that issue is behind us. Another Latin term, res ipsa loquitur. You may not have heard that one before. I've actually used that in court. Res ipsa loquitur translated means the thing speaks for itself. I've used that in court on occasion when the defense might call a witness who was obviously not credible, right? Unraveled on the stand, was caught in multiple lies, something that happens not infrequently, particularly in criminal trials. And then when I had to argue a point to the judge about the credibility or lack of credibility of that particular witness, I would say, Judge, I could go on and on pointing to the testimony and urging that you find this witness incredible, but you know what? Res ipsa loquitur. The thing speaks for itself. The witness's incredibility was obvious to all. Now, Judge Breyer used a Latin phrase in his ruling that I was unfamiliar with, so I learned a little something from reading Judge Breyer's opinion. And it's what Judge Breyer said in response to Donald Trump's third-rate DOJ lawyers arguing to him, well, if Donald Trump said it, Judge, you can't question it. If Donald Trump said there's an invasion, then there's an invasion. If Donald Trump says there's a rebellion, then there's a rebellion. And Judge, you can't question it. You can't look behind it. You can't ask us to produce evidence of it supporting what Donald Trump said. If Donald Trump said it, case closed. Well, Judge Breyer had a different view of that matter, that argument, and he said, that is classic Ipsidixit. You heard that right, friends, classic Ipsidixit. Now, I didn't know what Ipsidixit meant, but I looked it up. Ipsidixit is a Latin phrase that translates to he himself said it, or he said it himself. In essence, it describes a statement or claim that is presented as definitive truth solely because of the person who said it, without any supporting evidence or justification. It essentially means relying on the authority of the speaker rather than on evidence or reason. Given that definition, Donald Trump is a great, big, walking, breathing Ipsidixit. Donald Trump, Ipsidixit. Would make a good t-shirt, bumper sticker, or maybe protest sign. Because the No King's Day rally is upon us, Saturday, June 14th. So let's get out there and protest in massive numbers, peacefully, because pressure bursts pipes, and because justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.